I would give anything to see you smile again, to give you a hug, or even to talk to you for 1 minute. Have you ever lost a parent, or even someone close to you? When I was 5 years old, I lost my father to the evil entity known as brain cancer. I was young, however, this has still impacted me today. A father's love is something that is irreplaceable. I'll never get it back. I will never have the true love of my father. It's hard for any child to grow up without a parent. When you're young, it's hard to process the concept of death. It feels as if my father's death didn't really hit me until I was older. Today, I want to talk to you about what my father meant to me and who he was, what it was like for me to grow up without a father, and the effects losing a parent has on a child. I first want to dive into who my father was to me, and what his life was like in my eyes. My father was a great man, though I may be biased seeing as he is my father. Ever since I was born, my dad was in my life every moment of the way. My dad was never neglectful, even when he was ill. Even on his worst days, he made sure that I was the main priority. He saw me every day, even though my parents were divorced. My dad made his main priority me every chance he got. He wanted me to be happy, and in turn that made him happy. He sat with me when I was sad, protected me when I was scared, and smiled with me when I was happy. Those who knew my dad knew how sweet of a man he was. I now work at a daycare, and now I work with some of my teachers that I had when I was in daycare. So some of these teachers knew my dad. They always tell me that he was such a great man and so sweet and always cared about me. And it really does touch my heart to know that these people knew my dad. They knew my dad when he was sick. They knew my dad the entire time until his death. I remember a story that stuck with me that one of them told me was one day, on my first day actually, at the daycare, I started in a new class, and my dad didn't leave the classroom until I was feeling totally comfortable in there. He made sure to sit with me so that I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't get scared of being in a new place. And to know that he was there for me means a lot. Because now I see sometimes kids that are new coming in and getting really scared after their parents leave. And just to know that my dad took the time to stay with me and let me get comfortable there really meant a lot. And knowing this warms my heart to this day because even though I was young, I still remember instances where he was there for me. And I was lucky enough to have my dad there, and it's not something everybody can say. And even though he was only there for 5 years, he still was there. For the years my father was alive, he meant the world to me. Though, as I grew older, the more and more I realized that he is truly gone forever. As a kid, it was harder for me to process death because I didn't truly understand what death was. Psychology Today of January 13th, 2017 has author James Graham explaining a kid's idea of what death is. Children's experiences with death, i.e. actual experience and what they have been told about death, are critical to their understanding of it. They also do not have enough life experience to realize that death is inevitable for all living things. Children may not understand that death is permanent, and it cannot be fixed or reversed. Seeing my dad die when I was 5, I barely had any knowledge of what death was. I knew about death, and I knew that death happens, but I never really thought it would happen in my lifetime, especially so young. I knew there was other ways to die except old age, but in my mind, everyone just died of old age. And I knew that there were circumstances where people didn't, but I was just like, in my mind, I always told myself, it's fine. My family will always be with me because they're not going to die until they're super old. And I'm not going to die until I'm super old. And so it came as a shock when I found out that he died, especially so young. He was 32. And I just didn't understand because I was so sad. And I didn't understand why God would take somebody away from me that I had barely known. I'd only known him for 5 years. I thought that he would come back at some point, but he never did, and he never will. As a kid, you don't spend time dwelling on death. To most kids, death is something that won't happen until later in life. Fatherly of April 6, 2023 allows author Joshua Krisk to say, studies have also shown that the loss of a father is more often associated with a loss of personal mastery, vision, purpose, commitment, belief, and self-knowledge. While on the other hand, the loss of a mother elicits a more raw response. I think I already naturally had a closer bond with my mom, seeing as mothers are more nurturing, and that, I came from my mother and we both are females, so I already had a closer bond, I feel like, just because I felt we were inseparable. But that doesn't mean that my dad's death didn't impact me at all. My dad's love was different than my mom's, but they were both equally amazing. And though my mom loves me enough for a mom and dad to love someone, I know that I will never truly have my father's love because it was something unique to him that I can't get back. I know it's cliche, but a father's role is to be there to protect their daughter. Losing my father for me meant losing a protector. I wish he was still here to protect me from the evils of the world. Parenting for the Brain of January 15th, 2023 has author Pamela Lee suggesting children who experience parental loss are at higher risk for many negative outcomes, including mental issues such as depression, anxiety, somatic complaints, and post-traumatic stress symptoms, shorter schooling, less academic success, low self-esteem, and more sexual risk behaviors. So it's no surprise that I do suffer from anxiety and depression. I'm someone who has panic attacks quite often, even over small things. I'm fortunate enough to not lose sight of my academic success. For me, personally, I try my hardest when it comes to academics, and I strive to get good grades because I feel like I'm not only living for myself, but I'm living for my dad, and that he would want to push himself and myself to be the best I can. And so that's what I've always tried. And I think sometimes I do go overboard with it, wanting to be always perfect, because I'm scared if I'm not perfect, then I'm just wasting my time and I'm not really truly living for him. But I know that's not really what he would think. Parenting of the Brain of January 15th, 2023 has author Pamela Lee continuing with, they need to know that death is never the child's fault. It is also normal that the child may think they see or dream about their deceased parent. They didn't have to forget about their parents who died. This did apply to me after my father died. I had multiple dreams about my father, and it felt as if he'd come back. I remember there were times where in my dreams I would be doing something normal with him, just being in a car driving to the movies and asking, I thought you were dead, and him saying, no, I've been here the whole time. And then I remember waking up and it just being a fantasy, just a dream. And I had these dreams quite frequently when I was younger, so it was hard for me even now to depict what events truly happened with my dad and I, and what were just dreams that I had of him. And finally, in Parenting for the Brain of January 15th, 2023, Pamela Lee says, an early loss of parents usually increases the probability of inadequate child care and worsens the family's economic status. After my dad died, my mother was a single mother ever since my dad passed away. It's been hard for my mom to pay for things like my schooling. However, my mom has given me an amazing life despite being a single mother. She works her butt off to make sure that we have a happy life and live nicely and affordably. At the end of the day, losing my father is a terrible thing. However, I cannot undo his death. Instead, I can live my life to the fullest to honor him and all he did for me during the time he was alive. It has been hard to grow up without a father figure in my life, but I have had my mother by my side to support me through it all. I am fortunate enough to know that I had a father that loved me dearly. I hope in the afterlife I will get to hug him and be with him forever. Thank you.